The Caribbean is a sea located right here, north of South America and east of Central America. The islands in it are known for being somewhat confusingly divided into countries, non-countries, and several things in between. In this video, I will be explaining the territorial statuses of the Caribbean islands. We will start with these islands, sometimes referred to as the Greater Antilles. The largest of these islands is Cuba, which makes up most of the Republic of Cuba, a fully sovereign independent nation. It also contains the Isla de la Juventud and several other small islands. South of that is this island, which makes up the nation of Jamaica. Hispaniola is an internationally divided island between the countries of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. It is one of the only two pairs of countries that border each other, but not any other countries. The other one being Ireland and the UK, unless you count Gibraltar and Akrotiri and Dhekelia, which I'll mention in a bit. Also, Haiti contains Gonaïves Island. All four of these countries mentioned so far are fully sovereign as well as members of the United Nations, but the entity that consists of the island of Puerto Rico and several others is not a country. Puerto Rico is instead considered an organized, unincorporated territory of the United States. The organized part means the citizens of Puerto Rico are also full citizens of the United States, and the unincorporated part refers to how the US Constitution does not apply, making it fairly self-governing. This also means Puerto Ricans cannot vote in federal elections in the US. It acts a lot like a country, but does not have the same level of autonomy as all of the other ones we've looked at so far. There are many other such dependent territories in the Caribbean, such as the Cayman Islands, which is another territory, this time of the United Kingdom. A British overseas territory is one of the types of entities administered by the Crown, as it's officially called. All of these territories maintain diplomatic and constitutional ties with the United Kingdom, and everyone born there is a British citizen. The aforementioned areas are examples of these. We're not quite done here. It is unclear whether these islands are part of the Caribbean or the Atlantic, but most of these islands make up the Bahamas, another country. The rest of them are the Turks and Caicos Islands, another British overseas territory. And we are finished covering the Greater Antilles. It is more common for these to be included on maps than the Lesser Antilles, but the Lesser Antilles contains many more types of territories, so cause yourself to become ready for the upcoming information. I will list all the sovereign nations first for convenience. Many of the countries are named after their largest island or islands. For example, this is St. Kitts and this is Nevis. Together, they make up the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. Antigua and Barbuda form Antigua and Barbuda, and south of that is Dominica, not to be confused with the Dominican Republic despite identically spelled demonyms. There's also St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where Grenadines refers to a chain of several smaller islands, and Grenada. There are only two more nations left, the first of which is Barbados, which is not part of the main island chain, it's further east. The final one is Trinidad and Tobago, made up of the islands Trinidad and Tobago. This is the most populated country in the Lesser Antilles. It's also very close to Venezuela. That concludes all of the countries that are entirely made up of Caribbean islands, but there are still many islands left. These islands are mostly administered by other countries, but at different levels of autonomy. I will go through each of these consecutively. Starting off, Montserrat and Anguilla. Both of these are separate British overseas territories, similar to the Cayman, Turks, and Caicos. Next, just east of Puerto Rico lies the Virgin Islands, except the Virgin Islands aren't a single territory, they are instead divided into two different territories, the US Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands, the former being another organized unincorporated territory of the United States, and the latter being of the United Kingdom. You may have noticed that these islands haven't been mentioned yet. These islands are Guadeloupe and this one is called Martinique. Both of these are separate départements d'outre-mer, or overseas departments, of France. The French mainland is also made of departments, making these departments and those departments legally equal, making Guadeloupe and Martinique fully integrated parts of France and not just territories, kind of like Kaliningrad, Hawaii, or French Guiana. This is Saint Barthélemy. It also belongs to France, but instead of a département d'outre-mer, it is an overseas collectivity. This gives Saint Barthélemy a status of semi-autonomy, so it can usually be classified neatly with the other dependent territories. However, one island that is not so clear-cut is Saint Martin. This island is instead internationally divided between two completely separate territories. The first one is just called Saint Martin, and it is an overseas collectivity of France, similar to Saint Barthélemy. The bottom part, on the other hand, is called Saint Martin. Yeah, the island and the two territories all have basically the same name. The South St. Martin instead belongs to the Netherlands, meaning France technically has a land border with the Netherlands. So is this St. Martin just another dependent territory? No, it isn't. It is a constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The Kingdom of the Netherlands includes the Netherlands, St. Martin, as well as the two other constituent countries of Aruba and Curacao, which are all countries that form a larger sovereign entity. The other two examples of this in the world are the Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands, and the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. But that's not all. Not only are there constituent countries of the Netherlands in the Caribbean, there are also islands in the Caribbean that are directly part of the constituent country of the Netherlands: Bonaire, St. Eustatius, and Saba. These are special municipalities, meaning they're not part of any Dutch province, but residents still vote in regular Dutch elections. By the way, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that the Bahamas, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, and formerly Barbados are all Commonwealth realms, meaning that they are part of the Association of the Commonwealth of Nations, and all recognize the British monarch as their head of state. Okay, there are only a few islands left, such as the disputed territories of Navassa Island, the Bayo Nuevo Bank, and the Serenia Bank, all of which are uninhabited. Navassa Island is administered by the United States, but also claimed by Haiti. The two banks are claimed by Colombia, the United States, and Jamaica, but are administered by Colombia as part of the San Andres Islands. While the San Andres Islands are much closer to Nicaragua, they are integral parts of Colombia. And in fact, all of the islands not mentioned yet are directly part of a country of close proximity. Islands close to countries tend to be part of that country, so you would expect the same to apply here. But for all these other islands, well, you can probably guess why they're like this. It's because of European colonialism. If we go back to a time before these countries gained independence from their various colonial empires, said empires collectively included virtually all of the islands. Some of the islands switched from one empire to another over time, but looking at the predominant languages today can give you a general idea on which empire each island had belonged to. During the falls of these empires, the current countries each gained their independence due to various internal movements and referendums. Most of the mentioned islands have long and complex histories, so I cannot possibly go over all of them in detail today, but in general, these territories are the final remains of the previous empires. One result of this is that the entities that are tied to a country in the EU are also part of the EU, spreading the EU to the Caribbean. The French ones use the euro as their currency, but despite being in the EU, the Dutch constituent countries use their own currency and the municipalities used US dollars. It was to increase trade or something. The other territories use dollars as well. These non-countries act a lot like countries, even if you live in one or go to one for a vacation. They just happen to be somewhat messily arranged due to European colonialism, but they're not quite as messily arranged as the Pacific Islands.